Hello, Ben. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Happy Wednesday.
Hey, and to you, and to you. This is from A to B. I'm Andrew. That's Ben. This is presented by Osmo.com. Wednesday show. Football starts tomorrow. Golf almost ends tomorrow, or starts to almost end. That was not well said, but those are our topics of conversation today. Not as much on golf. I think today is going to be mostly an NFL show. We have our late night golf show tonight where we sort of go over our more specific strategies for you. But today, I think we'll get to some news and we're going to break down the rest of the AFC because the AFC stinks. So we're gonna kind of fly through it. Sound good to you, man?
I think that's a pretty good plan. Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk a little golf here, but tonight, my teams will be basically made. I know yours will be close to being made. We'll have more concrete things. It's hard to speculate now when we're going to have a show where we'll have just better information. So, yeah, 9 o'clock tonight. If you're around, stop on in.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea for everyone to do. Excellent. Okay, well, I think the two biggest pieces of news kind of today were and the stuff we've been waiting on are Earl Thomas and Lev Bell. Thomas is reporting, which he was not expected to, and then Lev Bell has still not reported. Pretty big. I think these are both pretty big deals. What you want to have a take, and then I'll take back.
I mean, I know Earl Thomas is like, I don't want to speculate. He might be cracking your one of your favorite athletes, or am I way off base?
Oh no, you're 100% correct.
Okay, yeah. I know you're like a huge Earl Thomas guy, and he is a big deal. Seahawks defense, Legion of Boom is not the Legion of Boom anymore, but he's a big piece there. I still think they're gonna have problems on the whole, but definitely noteworthy for DFS. Lev Bell obviously takes precedence. And maybe I've been doing certainly some preliminary stuff, and I'm diving in after show completely. We still have a chance that he plays. I'm assuming it looks dicier by the hour. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty unlikely that he would play and get a full workload.
Yeah.
I actually changed in our projections at Osmo. I upped James Conner this morning to I think I put him at like 60% or so of the market share, with Lev getting 20%. Just I'm hedging right now. I don't really know what to do. It would not be surprising at all. Like, he's gonna show up. It's just like he might show up on Saturday, collect his check. He's just playing hardball with him. Like, and I don't really blame him. Like, running backs famously get chewed up and spit out. He's trying to get a real deal, and
Yeah. From what I've heard, obviously, like everyone else, he's not in the girly, especially in the guaranteed money aspect. It's hard to blame him to get that money now because it's the worst position for that, the shelf life. You go Sean Alexander off the cliff style.
Yeah. I mean, look what the Cowboys did to DeMarco Murray in the last year of his deal. And that dude just retired. He was 28. Like, DeMarco Murray is 28. He's younger than you are. The guy's out of the league. It's crazy.
He was the man.
Yeah, no, he was really good for a while, and then he got run 400 times. So I think Bella's kind of saying, like, listen, I'm going to get my check. You want to franchise me? That's fine. I'm going to get my check. I'll do my thing for you, but you can't just totally abuse me. I do think Bell is whatever, like on a macro, like not macro, micro level for him. He is a bigger guy like that. That probably helps him sort of long term. And he's not like the most explosive athlete you see. Like, obviously, he's really fun to watch run because he's so sort of patient and picking his spots with the holes, but that may help. That said, like, that Steelers offensive line rules, and he was not efficient at all last year. So
no, he score. I feel like he scores better than he even plays at this point, just because of the catches. When you have 7 for 35, it's not even that effective, but that's 10.5 points.
Yeah,
it's a huge floor. So just looking at it real quick, I mean, yeah, he's at 9,400. Then you have Connor at 4.5. Once we get word down, but I'm not sure what it really does. It kind of just muddies the waters in the situation as a whole. Right now, my first take is just it's probably a situation I avoid completely unless we get some real clarity.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll get enough clarity that I have a feeling Connor's going to end up being a cash lock by Sunday morning. But
Even with
yeah,
all the running backs, like it's just such a loaded position. With a couple. I don't know. I guess maybe
yeah,
that's fair. You get three of them.
it is. But all the cheap ones like are either first and second only. Like I don't know. I'm not really interested in Peyton Barber. That guy doesn't catch passes at all. And then like the Pats, I think Lavi and I were actually in Slack like debating about this a little last night, and um, like I'd much rather play Burkhead than Barber, even though I think I agree with like Laffy's point was that Barber is assured more of a workload. I think that's 100% true, but you've got to catch passes, man. I mean, it's different. I guess if you're playing, FanDuel, like Barber's more of a thing, but like on the full PPR sites, like it's all about passes. And these cheap running backs that can get passes, that's why Team Jam 'em in didn't work as well last year, because there were all of these $4,200, and they're at least they're not $3,000 anymore. There were all these $4,200, $4,500 cheap running backs that if they catch five balls for 40 yards, it's gonna be a big deal. My mantra last year in general, which I'm relatively certain I'm sticking to this year. The trouble for me last year was it was not generally, but a lot of the time it was Tavis that was I won't make a GPP lineup without a Steeler in it. I wasn't going to do it last year, not planning on doing it this year. The really expensive ones, it's harder for them to pay off, but like someone on that team goes nuts every week, and it can be hard to tell who it is, but I am pretty much always going to have at least a Steeler, or at two if I'm playing Ben Roethlisberger, obviously at least. But I think the Steelers are going to be one of those pretty high-powered offenses. They're going to put up a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, I was jamming Bell. It felt every week like I found a way to get him in, and I would fade Kamara.
Yeah, that was tough.
That was my other mantra: was don't play Alvin Kamara ever.
Yeah, tough year, and for me it was like I'm not going to play without a Steeler, but then like half of the time it ended up being Martavis Bryant. So I was like, this guy doesn't even have to run. He doesn't. It's like everyone's like he's such a terrible route runner and he lapses in concentration. It's like,
But
does he? Yeah, does he have to? Does he have to be able to run a route if he's got 5 inches in height and then 5 inches in vert on the cornerback that he like just run downfield and jump over these guys? Like, I don't know. You'd have to triple cover him, but he stunk anyway. And I'm sad that I really like Martavis Bryant just because I don't know. I'm a big fan of those crazy athlete types, and it's too bad he's probably done.
I think he was on the super. Not that anyone cares about this, but his college team. He went to Clemson and super teams.
Oh, really? Who did he play? Who else was that? Like the DeAndre Hopkins teams, or?
Yeah, it was like him. I'm mixing years, but like when they had Taj Boyd and they had CJ Spiller was on around. They just had. There's a couple other guys that I'm missing. Big names. Another big receiver that it escapes me. Or Andre Ellington was involved. Just super offense when you look back. They had a good tight end. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I guess it's, we're going to get clarity and that will dictate it. I don't know. First, and I'll say it again, my initial thing right now, I think there's enough other stuff with Connors. We'll see. Cash is totally different because, we're talking, if we know he's going to get the workload, it's going to be tough not to go there. Tournament's going to be a whole different ball game. We'll see. The old Brownies, those fools, very, very bad.
Yeah, they're not going to be good.
No, be better, but not good.
Yep. One thing I will say, just to go back to Earl Thomas a little bit, why I think this is a big deal. Yeah, just for week one too. Like, I mean the Legion. Yeah, obviously, like Richard Sherman's more famous. Like whatever, Michael Bennett's more famous. Like Earl Thomas is he was the best one of all of them, and it's because like he was the safety blanket for everybody. And the reason, like, what made him so effective was that he was, he amazing instincts, like Ed Reed level instincts, but just crazy fast. So he could play he could be the safety valve at the very back of the defense, but start the play like 10 yards off of the line of the scrimmage. Like it was just nuts because he was so fast. He could react and then run back there to help people out, but he could get in the box too and like help that out if it ended up being a running play. So really just made everything tick. he's been the one. I know a lot of people were, like Sherman's missed some time the last few years. Really, when they started to struggle, it was when Thomas has kind of been banged up at a couple different points the last 2 years, and that's when they've really been a bummer. I was really warming when it sounded like he was not going to report. I really started to warm to the Denver offense. I think their offensive line is going to be okay this year, not a disaster. And then the Seahawks are down a lot. Like last year, they had 4 like really good pass rush. Like everyone on the defensive line was a good pass rusher. Keenum at least is going to launch the ball, if nothing else. He takes a lot of deep shots, and they've got 2 pretty good wide receivers that are both really cheap on DraftKings. So I was starting to get into I'm going to be playing a ton of Denver passing attack, but we'll see. I don't know. We're going to hear reports because Thomas obviously hasn't been with the team, so who knows what his conditioning is. But it's definitely a bit of a ding to Denver for me, where I was starting to lean towards okay, you can play you can play Keenum, Sanders, and Thomas for 15-3 or something. Like they're all well under the cost of an average roster spot. So still exciting, but not as exciting.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm a Cam Chancellor. He's a Hokie. I like that dude. Demaryius Thomas, sub 6, definitely appealing. He caught my eye. I like I said, I've done a couple of once-overs. I haven't immersed it. Not that this is an overall theme that we're going to get into. I try not to, football is unique in the sense you can get a 3-month start. For me, it just doesn't work if I do that. I just get too immersed in the slate, and by the time I make my lineups, I don't even know what I've done. So I tried to keep it fresh, look a little here, look a little there, and then really start to dive into the salaries, in these next couple of days. I didn't want to start making teams in mid-August, and then you're flipping, you're making 2v2s, and it's just, you don't even know where you end up. But he is a guy that caught my eye. Not the biggest Keenum guy, but like you said,
not great, but he's cheap and he throws.
And I think he's effective for the receivers in DFS just because of the way he plays.
Yep. And Thomas has potential. Like I was just talking about how Keenum launches the ball, which he does, but you also have to take plenty of short sort of move the ball type things. And Thomas makes a lot of, this is something you and I have discussed a little bit privately, but the over the middle route, like with this new helmet stuff, like those over the middle routes are going to be really tough for people to defend, because once a guy catches the ball, it's really difficult to make that tackle on that guy in space now. I think safeties are going to have a lot of trouble. I think they're going to get called a lot. So I think people are going to start to back off. Demaryius Thomas runs a lot of those drag and slant routes over the middle. That's kind of short stuff. So, or he has traditionally. Maybe that gets changed a little bit, but that's potentially interesting as well. I think so. The Denver passing game, sure, a little less excited with Earl Thomas back, but I'm still there. The one other piece of news I saw was that Anthony Costanzo is probably not looking good as the Colts left tackle, who's like their only good lineman. Luck, he took a lot of hits before. He could be in some trouble. The guy will turn the ball over. The Bengals are pretty, I'm starting to warm to the Bengals as a tournament defense pretty hard for week 1 as well.
Interesting. I certainly see the merit in that. Look, it's one of those, I hate breaking guys like this down because I see exactly that mindset, think that's fair. I also see the merit for playing Luck because he's super polarizing like that. It's weird to recommend a defense and then also recommend the play, but
it's like the White Sox or something like that in baseball, which I know you don't play much baseball, but they're a team that you on the same slate often, depending on, if it's a pretty good strikeout pitcher, they got a ton of power and they strike out all the time. So you can do both sides. Yeah. Same idea with high pressure defenses, because a lot of high pressure defenses make a lot of mistakes. People lit up the Chargers way more often than we think. Like the Chargers are an awesome defense. I played more of them in tournaments last year than any other one. But you can put up yards against Casey Hayward. Like he gambles. There are outs against that kind of those high pressure defenses. But
yeah, Colts are an interesting team. I mean, we're obviously certainly tomorrow and Friday we're going to be talking more in depth about the slate. I just that's another one. When I was talking about Connors, their running back situation is I guess murky as well. Max banged up. Wilkins, I know a little about him, not a ton to be honest. We'll have to see how that shakes out. It seems like someone's going to get there. Maybe they just immerse it where no one has enough workload to really make a reasonable target. But the Colts in general are a team that I'm certainly keeping an eye on this week.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, T.Y. Hilton's always an exciting one. He's just so fast. Yeah.
He always just, I don't, Ty gets crazy. He has just such big games, and then he just has other games that's just horrible. 0 catches.
Yeah.
Fast.
That's what happens with a lot of guys that are super fast.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill narrative, of course.
Yeah, Will Fuller. Will Fuller had 13 catches with 7 touchdowns.
He's in a different category. Will Fuller it's not even a regression. There needs to be a new word. He was getting up there in salary, and he was literally catching 3 passes for $120 and 3 touchdowns at one. It was that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
And that's not going to change I will say, I will probably play some Will Fuller on weeks where he's 1% owned this year, but he's never going to be a possession receiver because he has teeny tiny hands. He is not. You can't get away with that. He has some of the, I forget, I remember looking at this at one point, but I think he has the smallest set of hands in the league of anyone you've heard of as a wide receiver. And that makes it very tough. Makes it very tough to play wide receiver. He's not going to be a possession guy catching a bunch, getting a bunch of targets and racking up scores. It's going to be, did he beat his man downfield a couple times? When he does that, sure, you can get a lot in one play, and hopefully he gets down. Because he's going to stink, he gets down to the 4,500 range and people aren't playing him, and then the 160-yard dong will pay off. So,
yeah, he fits in all sports. I think we try to identify I'll say the Louis Oosthuizen kind of mindset where Will Fuller or chalk. Even if I like the spot, I'm almost always going to be underweight just because there's such an extreme blow up chance. And Will Fuller 1%, even in a not good paper matchup, has a lot of merit. And we talk about that in golf all the time with Usti in particular. It's just almost at random when he explodes. So why and implodes. So why are we going to dictate it based off ownership, based on form, based on even matchup / course? It just doesn't really factor in as heavily.
Yeah, and especially when they're that. With the wide receivers where they're that big play dependence, Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye get beat sometimes. They're not that fast. Will Fuller's definitely faster than them. I would play him, because I think you're going to see him. I don't even know if they play he's in the he's in the same division. They're going to play twice.
Good authority, it's twice.
Oh God, yeah, he could certainly get loose behind them. I'll probably, if he's going to be 1% owned against the Jags, I will absolutely be on that. Anywho, moving on. I think that's about it for NFL news.
Okay. We want to talk. You want to just? I have a golf question actually. I know we're going to talk some AFC, but I did want to slide this in because it's interesting, and this is a real question. Just I'm interested to the answer. We've talked about Rover before, and you're the godfather of it. You created it. This is a non-cut, obviously. Do you think that it's more applicable in a situation like this, or even on a showdown on a 1-game or 18-hole sample size, or is it still just you use it with other things, kind of applicable in certain spots?
Yeah, I think the shorter the sample, the more likely you are, the more you're trying to get lucky with something like Rover.
Okay.
I usually bet the high Rover guys first round leader unless they totally stink. Because again, Rover has nothing to do with your actual skill, but no one here stinks yet. Rover is just it's a ranking of range of outcomes. The higher the Rover, the higher range of outcomes. But if a guy stinks, his range of outcomes is higher. He might have a higher ceiling than someone else who stinks, who's low Rover. But
it just seems that with no cut, it would be more pertinent because you're not going to get the blow up punishment as much. So it's hey, this guy's got a 95 Rover. The downside is a little less bad, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, definitely, especially with cheaper players. Um, if Tommy Fleetwood were 10-9 and high rover, like as high rover as he is, which he is, it's literally just a ranking from 0 to 100 of a sort of weighted standard deviation I made for all these guys. So it's not rocket science. It's not something I invented. It's just a different interpretation. But so someone like Fleetwood, who tends to have a bad round here and there, if he's really expensive and you need the placement points out of him, I'd be a little more scared of that. Someone like, if Justin Thomas were going to be 35% owned this week, I'd be scared. I'd be less likely to do that. Higher rover players in general are sort of, it's high rover, high variance. It's what we were just talking about with Tyreek Hill and Will Fuller, Louis. Like, they're the guys you want to play when they're lower owned, because you can get paid off more, and they're easier fades when they're chalk, because the downside is there too, right? It's a higher ceiling, but also a lower floor generally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where the blow up potential comes in. It caught my eye, and I was talking, one of the sharp guys in Slack, Wiggy, he had asked about it, and I was talking with him, and I think it is an interesting point that, for something like that, and obviously in a showdown slate, there's no cut.
Mm-hmm.
You're more willing to take the plunge on it and say, hey, give me the wild upside and the extreme blow up risk, because you know what? It's only 18 holes. This is non-cut.
Yeah. No, we were we were making pretty good money on the weekend golf stuff, like back in the day, not back in the day, but last year or even earlier this year, where Tony Finau and Justin Thomas were kind of those were sort of lock button dudes because they weren't necessarily any more popular than anyone else. Now they are, because people know to go after those guys. But and Rover also, it's not the same as something like birdie or better percentage. It's not like Tony Finau is someone who's not crazy high rover necessarily, but is really high in the scoring. He has we were talking about that last week. I think the sort of intra round rover is really high because he does a lot of birdie bogey stuff. It doesn't necessarily show you that. But yeah, guys with higher rover, if they're having a crazy round where they shoot way better than the field, they probably got a lot of birdies. It's not unless it was really hard and they just happened to do the 3 birdie bogey free round kind of thing.
That's so atypical, especially as we've talked about. There's only a handful of courses where you can crush the field by shooting 2 under at this point.
Right. Yep, 100%. So.
No, that's good. And we're going to explore that again. Show tonight, we'll talk more about that with specific guys. Because non-cut, this, of course, you've listened to me complain about it for over a year. It's just not my favorite thing. I don't enjoy that. I don't think it's my best format. So I have to, and I've been trying since the Olympics. That was the only time I've done good, real good in a non-cut. I'm trying to change how I attack these guaranteed 72-hole slates. Something like Rovers, I'm going to incorporate maybe a little more this week and see if I can target a little more upside. I'm so used to trying to get guys through the cut. I feel like I don't construct properly in these situations. So we'll see. Hopefully I just get 1 through 6. That makes it a lot easier. But
indeed.
Anyhow, yeah. Boy, do we have to transition back to the AFC? My God, some of these teams.
Well, yeah, the AFC. See,
it's bad.
We had sort of planned on doing a division a day kind of thing. We are realizing we weren't going to have time for that with Labor Day and everything. Luckily, the AFC kind of stinks, so we're just going to plow through the rest of it today. We did the AFC East last Friday. That's still on the YouTube channel. If you wanted to go back and look, you're certainly welcome to. Just because that's where our 2 favorite teams are. And then, there's not really many other good. We've got the Chargers are good. The Steelers are kind of good.
The entire AFC South is interesting. Someone in there is going to be good.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the Titans, so there's 3 now. I don't know, though.
You think it's the Titans for sure?
Well, No, it's not. I've thrown them out. They need to go. You're on the. You think the Titans might be all right?
I mean, they have just as good a chance to be good as anyone else in that crap
Yeah.
division.
I thought you were a Mariota hater.
Not really. I don't
Huh.
have a. I don't really. I'm a little Mariota indifferent. He's really fast. I like that. And they've added. They did add some cool pieces, but yeah, the Jaguars should be good enough. Like their defense is probably going to be really good, but you never know. Calais Campbell's not exactly young anymore. I mean, Ramsey and Bouye get all the talk because it's DFS, but he's the best player on that defense. So I don't know. I think the Jaguars will be fine. They brought in Norwell too he's a really good guard. Got him from the Panthers, but their receiving core is very different, and I don't think necessarily good. But
no, I mean they have Dante Moncrief and the gang. Yeah, obviously Marquise Lee is Dunzo. We'll see what DD Westbrook. We're still waiting on DD Westbrook week. I feel like from last year, that was always a potential thing before lock, and then bad things happened. I don't know.
Cole's got to be 80% owned in cash week 1 because he's 3,800.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all of that. I think for me, not this isn't. I would say what most people would say. I think the Titans have the best chance to be the worst team. I think the Jaguars have the best chance to be the best team. I don't feel super confident in anything in that division. It seems wide open. Who knows? Deshaun Watson was breaking the league until he got hurt.
I think they have the best chance to be the worst team, the Texans. And people
Really?
like the Texans. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the best.
I mean, they have very high rover team here.
Okay.
There's a lot of potential issues, though, man. Like J.J. Watt hasn't been healthy in 3 years, and people are just kind of assuming he comes back. Yeah, you're right, because their pass rush is potentially terrifying. With Watt, if Watt, Clowney, and Merciless are all doing their thing, that's badass. But it seems unlikely. It's never happened. Those guys have been on the same team for 4 years or something now. I don't think they've ever all been healthy at the same time.
They definitely, I mean, luck, that's a mystery in itself. But I do feel that there's a lot of people it's a given that Deshaun Watson's just coming back, getting better because it's his second year and completely healthy. I'm certainly skeptical of that. He could be great. He looked incredible, but I'm not sure it's that easy.
I don't think he looked all that incredible either, if we're being totally honest.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. He put up some crazy numbers, but he made some really bad throws that he got really lucky to not get picked. Like that happened a lot.
He did some things. I don't know. I wasn't super high on him coming out of college, to be honest. I saw him play a ton there. Clemson, another Clemson guy. It's the theme of the show. He was impressed. I don't know, that Seattle game. There were some games. He did some things, but
that was the game of the year for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, that's a fascinating division, though. And I know I just touched upon luck. Who knows with him? I feel like they have the least amount of rover. I feel like they're just going to be second or third. But we'll see. Texans wild card, not in sense they're making the playoffs as a wild card. They're the
horrid offensive line too.
Really? See, that's the stuff, and we're going to dig into this more in depth, that I'm looking to you for, because you really have a really good pulse on that. And that we talked about last week how important that is.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun Watson, he's certainly mobile. How did he lose some of that after this? Yeah. Maybe. And you don't want to be getting your quarterback. Him running for his life is different than his ability to run. There's a big distinction there, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like, oh, well, they have a mobile quarterback. It doesn't work like that. If the pocket's collapsing, or if they're getting pressure, Aaron Donald style in your face, it doesn't really help that you can move. It just, it's less bad, I guess.
It does, but you have to be like, we even saw Russ Wilson had an amazing fantasy year last year, but there were a few games where it was just too much for even him to deal with. And he's probably the best at that.
Yeah. And I see my comment there is I just see such a distinct Russell Wilson, his ability to create on the run like that is maybe Deshaun Watson can do that. I have not seen that yet. That was what he was doing last year, and they ran out of fuel, understandably, was just ridiculous.
Yep.
He was just actually playing backyard football out there.
Yeah. Pretty wild. Oh, also Romeo Crennel taking over at defensive coordinator.
All right, so now they're assuredly in last. We can move on.
He's 70 yet? Like, I don't know. Anyway,
another Cleveland Browns at once bringing them to the promised land. All right, I guess that'll be our AFC South. Which one of these other? I combine these divisions all the time. I can name the 8 teams pretty fast, but to organize the Brown, it always confuses me which division these teams are in.
Okay. Well, then just pick a division, and then we can talk about the teams.
All right, let's do.
I'll name the teams for you.
No, we'll do the North. I know that's the Bengals and the Browns.
So Bengals, Browns, Steelers, and Ravens.
Okay. Yeesh.
It's gonna. I don't know. That's gonna be funny. The Browns are gonna be bad. We know that. Don't really think that's up for too much debate. They should be better, certainly.
Yeah, I would bet they win a division game. Maybe over 1.5 would be that line. I think would be pretty fair. Considering they've only had 1 win in 2 years, that's a nice jump for them.
Yeah. Yeah, they added some players, but it's not really – they didn't really add what – I mean, they added a lot of flashy skill position players. They added a lot of guys for fantasy. I don't know how much better that makes them. Those positions aren't as important. Listen, Tyrod Taylor and Baker Mayfield, whatever ends up happening, is going to be better than what Deshaun Kaiser was doing last year. But
so bad. Yeah, I mean, obviously, on the other side, Myles Garrett is looking like he's going to be a serious business. Defense, I would say, will be fine, solid. I'm not sure people realize how good Joe Thomas was. I know that sounds kind of crazy to say, but it's just like, oh, the Browns, they added all these people. Yeah, they lost him, though. Just the auto. I mean, I think everyone knows this. You literally had to worry about 10 guys for like 10 years because of him. He was just the super player. We'll see. Again, I'll defer to you on where their offensive line is.
It should be okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a disaster, but Joe Thomas is very important. I'm trying to think. I did look. I felt like they did have a hole, but don't.
Yeah, I mean, they've added, you're right. Fantasy-wise, it's like, man, they've got, Josh Gordon's coming back. Carlos Hyde is there. They added Tyrod. They've added a bunch, Njoku seems like a reasonable target. We'll see what Nick Chubb does. There's guys all over the, obviously, Landry. I don't know, though. How it translates on the field is going to be interesting. Well, I would venture to say that, and this is way off base, they're going to have a couple of games where like a full-on Brown stack with a lot of pieces is going to be pretty profitable, but week in and week out, I still think we're going to see, and this is coming from someone, you can attest to this, who picked the Browns to, I think if I was right every week, the Browns would have been like 14-2. I picked them to win. It felt like every week. That was,
I remember that.
It was bad.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Them against the Jaguars, worst. That was bad. So this division, I don't want to talk about these teams. These teams are weird.
Yeah. We kind of talked about the Steelers earlier. They should be awesome for fantasy. They have a really good offense. Assuming Roethlisberger doesn't just hit the wall, which is totally possible, but they should be really good for fantasy. They have a lot of very good players and a very good offensive line holding that together for them. So I think that they, James Washington looks like he's going to be a player. He's sort of the new deep threat guy. I think he's going to be
that guy.
I think he'll be a fun guy to target early on. He's fast. He's probably got to be less of a knucklehead than Tavis, unfortunately. So yeah, I think you're playing a lot of Steelers this year on for DFS purposes. Their defense is pretty small and not very good. I mean, it's fine, but it's a strange defense. It doesn't work. I mean, it certainly doesn't work against the Patriots.
Well, that's one of those circular just kryptonites with the Chiefs and them and the Patriots of like bizarro.
Yeah, the Steelers will always beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs will always beat the Patriots. The Patriots will always beat the Steelers. It's just kind of how it works. So can't run zone against Tom Brady. It's stupid, and they still keep doing it. So
yeah, even I went to college at UMass. I'm not the biggest Patriots guy, and I've seen firsthand you probably shouldn't do that. It never works. And they really
the only time it works if you have like the Jets pulled it off a couple times where they were just because I don't know, I don't remember if the Pats offensive line was struggling then or just I think that was the height of like Chris Jenkins, and they must have had a couple other good passers, but I remember they were getting some pressure rushing 3 and just dropping 8 back. And
those were David Harris led just monster. Yeah, that playoff game was the greatest thing ever. Braylon Edwards, who was just in big trouble. Anyway, yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. They have been stubborn in the past. Clearly the team to beat in the division. Bengals, Mixon was a guy I was buying really heavily last year. I think he's going to be really good. Just long term, not even just DFS wise, just a real player. Perfect back for this type of NFL. Dalton's in. I mean, I know we're jumping kind of for season previews and then a little week 1. Dalton is a guy for week 1 that I could see myself getting in trouble with. Yeah, kind of interested there.
They're going to be, I'll tell you right now, because the Bengals' biggest problem is still their biggest problem. They brought in Cordy Glenn to play left tackle from the Bills, who's fine, and then they drafted a center who knows, might be good. Their offensive line still stinks. So they're a team, they have you're right, Mixon's good, AJ Green's, an unbelievable wide receiver. John Ross is another super fast guy that's going to take some wild stuff to the house. Like he's Tyreek Hill fast. Like he's faster than Will Fuller. Like
he's in a like rarefied air, like of all fast people for like decades. He's up there.
Like really, Chris Johnson fast. Like
he can move.
Yeah. So that could be kind of fun to watch. But I think that they're a team you want to target, and this is a week to do it because the Colts are not a good defense. But you want a slow, crappy defense. And if you can get that where they're not getting – because this offensive line is really – and Dalton is awful under pressure, and they really struggle to get good pass protection. So against teams that are going to have real pass rushes, the Bengals are going to be an easy fade. But I think that they are going to be pretty good if they play a trash defense, and that's what they're going to get in week 1, most likely. So,
yeah, in the dome. Yeah, no, I think that sums it up. Don't play them against the Chargers, I guess is what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Or the Broncos. Do they play the AFC West this year?
I don't know, but yeah, that wouldn't be optimal for them. Moderated. Anyway.
You know who does is the NFC West plays the AFC West, and the poor Russell Wilson. Like he's gonna like with no offensive line, he's gonna deal with Ingram and Bosa in a game, and then he's gonna deal with Miller and Chubb in a game. Just in addition to obviously Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh in his face up the middle.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
That's gonna be tough.
Ravens.
Yeah, boring.
Yeah, get out of here.
Marshall Yanda's back. He's the Joe Thomas of guards. He missed last year, but he's like one of the best players in the NFL. That's helpful for them. Flacco probably stinks. I don't know. Maybe Lamar Jackson's letting them fire. They've got new receivers. None of them are all that fun. Like Michael Crabtree's a really good player, but
end of the Perryman era. Who would have thunk it? Just came as fast as it went. Willie Snead. Yeah, it's just bad. They're a candidate. Low key could be just horrendous in my book.
It's possible.
Yeah, Flacco might be just completely done. I'm not a Lamar Jackson guy at all. And even if he is good, I would be stunned if he's even remotely serviceable to give you anything this year. Like long term, who knows? But he just seems like the easy candidate of all these rookies for a guy that you're going to need even a couple years to get acclimated. He was doing it purely on athleticism. That's just not a translatable thing in the NFL, of course.
Yeah, I don't really, like we've talked about this plenty, but I don't really watch a lot of college. But I did see a couple. Like I heard some reports of like the team is not happy with how Lamar Jackson is running, and I saw a couple preseason highlights where it's like he's just in the open field, like I'm gonna take on this safety right now. It's like, what are you doing, dude? Like you're gonna get killed.
It's just hard. I mean, yeah, certainly as if you look at me, you're not surprised that I don't have experience with this. But for a guy like that, for the last 10 years of every time he did that, it turned out good because he was the most athletic guy on the field.
Right.
It's hard to turn that on.
When you're running over a safety that's 180 pounds, it's another when he's 220 and he's an NFL player. Like,
and the rest fast is like he would run, he would take the hits, and if not, he would just get to the open field, and it wasn't even close. These foot races, these guys can run with him, of course. So, yeah, this is just a team I have no interest in. I think they're going to be a boring DFS team as well.
Yeah, they have been for years.
Yeah, they have.
That changing.
The last thing I'll say about them, and we can move on. I think this is pretty easy to say. Chalk defense because of Peterman on the other side.
Yeah,
week 1.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't work out as well as people think, because like the Bills are going to be really.
I don't know. Yeah,
It's going to be so much better when Josh Allen takes over too, because I think you're right. He'll probably be able to move. He makes like just this boneheads. He's going to throw picks at the end zone that are going to get run back 98 yards, and it's going to be awesome for DFS.
Yeah, he's going to do that in between just throwing lasers for touchdowns, but he certainly will do both. All right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can we get to, because I actually have, I'm not sure people will find this interesting, but I do have things to say on a couple of these teams.
Yeah, these are the most exciting teams.
For sure. Who do you want to start with? The Raiders, you boys.
Sure, let's go with the Raiders.
Just old John boy, Johnny Grude's leading them astray. I really don't. This is not the team that I have much to say on. They look like maybe people, everyone's bashing them in the media and whatnot. Maybe they have more control, but from the outside, it looks pretty messed up to start the year. That's never kind of how you want to do it. Is that fair? I mean, Carr's good. I don't know how good exactly he is.
I don't think he's that good. I think their offensive line has given him a lot of time to do his thing, and he can throw deep balls. Like, that's a problem.
That could be an issue. No Crabtree, obviously. Well, Amare is there. Again, yeah. I kind of I'm not saying they're the Ravens, but they don't seem like a super team that I'm going to be looking to target much. Maybe a piece here, short slates, of course. But on the whole, they don't seem too exciting, and everyone who's alive knows that on defense they just lost their centerpiece. So,
yeah, and I get it. Like, I think the stories that are coming out about how Gruden apparently did not want to pay. You can't pay two guys $23-24 million a year. But why are you paying David Carr that much?
That's step one of bad decisions, and we see this in every form of life. It's not the decision. For me, it was like the optics / the way it was done. Like, there's ways to say basically, due to what we have, we can't allocate this money. It just was a mess where he was like, well, it wasn't my call. And it's like, you're getting $100 million. You probably have a say in what's going on. Like, let's not get crazy.
Yep. And the reason the Bears were comfortable absorbing someone like Mackin is because they have the rookie. Yeah, they have the rookie quarterback contract. That's what, these teams, you saw that obviously that's how the Seahawks got so good so fast. It's what's happening with the Eagles right now. The Rams, yeah, they've got obviously a rookie quarterback contract. If the guy is like a real NFL starter, is the most valuable thing out there, because once they get, like an average NFL starter like Derek Carr commands 20, whatever he's making. over $20 million a year. Like, it's crazy.
And yeah, that changed. I think Bradford was the last one. Now you just talked about it. That the rookie scale, if you can get that, you can just go not all in, but you can build a super team around these guys, and you're not paying the centerpiece. And you know that like Goff and the Wentz, obviously, they're going to take a boatload of your cap on the next deal. So the time is now, of course.
Yeah, exactly. No, the rent, yeah, and that it's weird to see because you get a little, you're like, oh, like something like the Rams, it's like, oh wow, we're building towards something and it's exciting, and like, oh, down the road, it's like, no, actually,
now.
Yeah, the time is now, because now is when you're going to be able to afford all these crazy expensive guys, and they're all veterans, so like, you know, they'll just get rid of Ndamukong Suh in a couple of years when he's 33. Like they're going to cut bait. But yeah, Goff, Wentz, all these dudes are going to start. You know, that's what happened with Wilson. The Seahawks' gradual decline happened because all these dudes started getting paid, and Russell Wilson's a $20 million a year player now, and they couldn't afford to just go crazy everywhere else.
With the Ravens, Flacco took after the run like just an absurd salary, and now they're forever.
I think that's the best parallel to the Raiders.
Yeah, I agree.
You get this mediocre quarterback that you're paying all this money to, and then you start to lose everything else. But it's not like the quarterback is a big time separator. So that's all right. So the Raiders are going to probably be the worst team. The Broncos, mildly interesting.
Yeah, again, we talked at the top of the show. Keenum, not the biggest fan of him, but they still have, you know, Demaryius Thomas, Sanders. They got some weapons. Defense, I don't know. And maybe you can enlighten me on this. It didn't feel like they lost the core of it. Maybe I'm off base there. And they've obviously they had a real elite team there for a while.
Yeah,
clearly. I'm not sure where they stack up anymore. You talked about the pass rushers. Chubb's gonna be good, I think. Where do you think they fit in as a whole, I guess, on defense?
I think they should be pretty good. They got Chubb, Miller, and Barrett as the guy rotating in, who's a really good pass rusher too. They still have Chris Harris is he might be the best corner. Like, just because his job is so much harder, he might actually be the best cornerback in the league. Being that slot corner it's very difficult, and he doesn't just play slot either. Like, he plays on the out. You know, most teams. I remember reading, like, I think like 60% of offensive snaps are now in 11 personnel when you have the 3 wide receivers and the tight end, the 1 running back. So you've got a slot receiver and slot corner out there most of the time now.
Yeah.
But even when, if they're in their base 3-4, Harris is playing on the outside too. So he's just a monster, but whatever. I think the defense is going to be good. I think especially them at home, that altitude is a real thing. I think they're going to be a fun DFS team to play because they're going to get a lot of pressure and they're going to make teams do stupid things. I think they have a good defense.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Some massive holes on the offensive line the last couple of years. They had massive holes at quarterback, and that's a problem. And I think just being competent there is going to be a big deal. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think. I think they've gotten better this year, but I mean, they were really bad last year. But I think that they'll be fine.
Trevor Siemian, not the answer. I don't think they're going to be bad either. I certainly am more bullish on them than most. Because I didn't really, yes, their quarterback and whatnot, there were some reasons that you just highlighted. On the whole, though, I didn't think they should have been that bad, and I don't think it's that far off that where they could be a competitive team in this division, which I think is wide open because I am not, if you want to transition to the Chiefs,
they're bad.
I am not on the Mahomes bandwagon at all. I'm not on the Chiefs bandwagon at all. DFS wise, he's going to make some plays at Texas. I remember college DFS, him at Texas Tech making plays all over the place. But my God, I don't think in terms of effectiveness that he's going to be that good. I really don't. And Alex Smith, for me, perpetually underrated. I think that's kind of a given at this point. Guy just plays well. So are you a Mahomes? I mean, you haven't seen that much, I'm assuming, because there hasn't been much to say.
Nope. He's got a cannon. That's going to be fun. Yeah. I don't know how good he's. I agree with you. I think DFS wise, they're going to be fun. I think Mahomes to Tyreek Hill, like there's definitely like double down potential there fairly often. But their defense is bad.
Yeah.
Offensive line's fine. I think from a real football perspective, the Chiefs are vastly overrated. I think they'll be pretty good for DFS. I think there'll be times to target them because it's just the offense. But man, that defense is tough. And I think the defense is going to be a big one to target in DFS. They just don't have a lot of talent. They're not that big. I don't know. It's going to be tough for them.
I mean, obviously, we don't know, but I did see right before the show, Eric Berry's already nicked up. It just seems like it's, a recipe for an underachieving team. So we'll see what happens. Mahomes is going to have those slate breaking plays. We saw one in the preseason where he just throw it up and Tyreek Hill goes and gets it because no one can run with him. In sound defenses and in effective games, I'm not sure what we really see from him. If the pressure's in his face, he's got a lot of, to me, Josh Allen in him in the sense that he makes plays where there is none, and you get punished in the NFL for that. You get away with it in college, but not here. So,
and even that crazy throw, like that was fun because I think it traveled 70 yards in the air. I don't know how good the timing was on that because like Reek had to come back for it. The guy's got a cannon, but he probably looks like he threw the ball like a second or two too late. And if those, I don't know, was that against the first unit or a second unit?
I don't know. I didn't see it live. I saw that, and it's just something you're going to see occasionally for sure. But what are you going to see the rest of the time? I'm not too high on it overall. Kareem Hunt, that was another one. If you want to talk about Kamara, Kareem Hunt, where he was, I thought an easy candidate for regression, then he did regress, of course, because that's what happens when you're vastly outperforming what you should be doing.
Yeah, I had a hard time with Kareem Hunt last year because you're right. He would get the 160-yard run every game for the first 4 or 5 games. And even if you put him at 4.5 yards per carry kind of thing, I finally started playing just because the workload was so obscene. It was kind of hard to ignore. I think I started playing him in week 5 or 6, and that's when he didn't score a touchdown for 6 games, and that was just really poor regression. I don't know. It was awful.
Yeah.
Not that fun. I'm not a big Chiefs guy. I don't think they're going to be that good. I think they'll be a reasonable team, with good pressure defenses, like the Chargers. I think you can play them against. I think Mahomes is going to make some mistakes. So.
He is. I feel really confident about that. That is going to be his ability to make plays is not in question for me. It's more, can he limit the really, really bad mistakes? And I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we will see. And then lastly, I'm willing to put this team as the second best in the AFC. We'll see. But the Chargers, a lot of talent, both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it's the Chargers. I mean, honestly, the biggest knock on them is it's the Chargers. And something will happen. Everyone will get hurt. Hunter Henry's obviously gone already. They really, on paper, though, you look, competent quarterback. All the weapons you would need, the edge rushers, the defense is sound enough for sure. I think they are the second best team on paper when you really look at it. Just going to be a matter of, will they go full Chargers? And, the joke with Rivers, he's always down. He drives them down. They miss a kick. Something happens.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
What is it, 2 and 112 in games decided by a field goal or less?
No matter what the score is, somehow he's only down a field goal, and they never have a timeout, and he drives them down. And Nick Novak, who sometimes he's not even on the team, he's still making the kick, and then it never works out.
Yep.
Cool. But it's hard not to like, and they just seem to really have everything that you could ask for at this point. So
the offensive line's a little weak, but they got both of their guards are second-year players, so potentially they could start to look up a little bit. A lot of Keenan Allen's super awesome. Tyrell Williams is fast as hell, great field stretcher. It's a Nice combo. Melvin Gordon's a fine running back.
Yeah,
We'll see.
they got Mike Williams, who I think they have someone's going to emerge if they can get a threat next to Allen, reliable. It's always impossible, with all DFS sports to predict injuries. I do think that honestly, health is just Keenan Allen is always, it feels like, perpetually banged up. They need to stay healthy, like most teams who really want a chance at what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. But yeah, they look good. I mean, my plan right now, as of right now, I have Phil Rivers in cash for week 1. I think
that's a cool game in general.
Yeah.
Rivers in cash, interesting. 6'4". That's a reasonable price for.
Yeah, that's the thing with Rivers is he's always. This was the case with Carson Palmer for a long time too, where it's like he's always. They just throw the ball a lot, so it's like, all right, this guy's going to get 38, 39 pass attempts, and the other guys that people are talking about are going to get 33, 34. And this guy's cheaper. I think there is an argument to be made for like really dumpster diving in cash. Like
that's what I usually do.
Yeah, I mean Keenum and Fitzpatrick, and there's one other guy that's like right at 5K that you can maybe buy a little more wide receiver or something if you go that route. But I've over in the 5 years or whatever that I've been playing a lot of NFL DFS. I've played Rivers in cash more than anyone else. He's perpetually underpriced, it seems.
It's good to know. Yeah, obviously I haven't built yet, but I have no problem with that at first glance. And you're right, the volume is there, and no reason I think that you can't go there, especially with the amount of value we're going to see week 1 with injuries and whatnot. You're going to be able to be pretty flexible and pay up where you want, and he's not that expensive, so we'll see. This is crazy. I know I don't feel like it's sneaking up, but at the same time, you said this at the very beginning. Football is tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I'm gonna be up $1 million before Sunday after I just pick the only 6 players that no one else picked, and then that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What if you pick some guys that are playing on Sunday? No one's going to be on them.
And this is what I know. We're not behind the paywall, but this is the kind of information you can get here. Is how to be different. We will talk about the showdown slate. I'm going to force you to talk about it tomorrow because you know what you're doing there. Me, not so much, but I'll learn on the fly.
Just got to be a site. Like, I don't know. That's what I'm good at. Whenever I'm in it, whenever the goal of the tournament is to just be a complete lunatic. It's like, all right, hey, I can do that.
This is your week then, because like I said, we got a non-cut in golf, and we got $1 million to first in a $2.5 million prize pool showdown slate. A couple years ago, you wouldn't have thought that was a sentence, and here we are.
$1 million the first, 1.5x to 10th. There's 500,000 people in it.
You get 20 buy-ins if you beat 99.999% of the people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's neither here nor there. For sure. I think that was good. We breezed through the whole AFC. Not bad.
Yeah. You just got to hit the nuts, man. Don't be a loser. Just hit the nuts. It's showdown.
Amateur hour here.
Mm-hmm. And if you chop, I mean, to be fair, if you chop the nuts with even this is $1 million is quite a bit. So if you're starting to chop the nuts with 100, 100 or 2 people, like you got to be kind of weird, but like it's possible to do something.
$10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
Nope. Not at all.
It'll be we'll talk about it tomorrow. I'll drop in some college football since it's gonna be later in the week. Got some good things on tap, and then next week we get poll questions on Monday. So I'm building anticipation for if anyone is watching this at this point. We'll say.
I'm excited. Yeah. So tomorrow we'll be Rage Tilting Golf, talking about Showdown NFL and college football. Jesus, this sounds like a nightmare.
Sounds like a good time every time.
Okay, that'll be great. Everyone should come back and check us out tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be breaking down last minute stuff for the golf. I would go a little easier. I'm not playing cash. I'm playing some torn. I'm playing half of what I've played most of the summer. So
yeah,
I think that's probably the time to do it. Great, everyone. Thank you for listening. Ben, always fun chatting with you. Josh, thanks for producing. And we will check you all next time. Come on over to awesomemo.com. We got all kinds of cool stuff behind the paywall. Seriously, there's a lot of really good stuff. Ownership projections for PGA will be dropping later today. Take care.